Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you happen to be watching. Welcome to the Six Bugle Podcast. I'm your host, Rudy Ruiz, and today we have a very special guest, Traci Tauferner from Advanced Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine. Traci will be one of our special guests at the La Crosse, Wisconsin Six Bugle Conference. Traci is a strategic provider of advanced conditioning, testing, and rehabilitation services to tactical units, industry, and municipalities. Traci has specialized training and extensive experience working with law enforcement, paramedics, EMTs, firefighters, SWAT, and the military. Traci is also skilled in trauma-informed weightlifting, peer support crisis intervention, mental health first aid, and wellness. Please welcome Traci Tauferner. Traci, how are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Rudy. I'm really looking forward to the conference and especially pleased to be here on your podcast today.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking out the time. We know you have a very valuable person to your organization, and we are very pleased to have you as one of our special guests at our conference coming up. And just as a reminder, we still have availability for registration, so you still have time to come on out. It's about a month away. Traci, can you believe it? It's kind of creeping up pretty fast.
Creeping up, my PowerPoint's almost done.
Well, I know we're looking forward to it, and I'm sure they're going to have a ton of questions. So we wanted to provide this podcast for our special guests, and there are some that are part of our podcast family that don't typically attend, but we wanted to give them a little taste of what we're going to offer here in the La Crosse, Wisconsin conference. So I just have a few questions for you, Traci. Administrative staff often manage schedules and communications. How does your program provide resources or tools these professionals can easily integrate into their workflow to support their health and that of their colleagues?
That's a great question. I really appreciate you asking it. So at Advanced Tactical Medicine, we are really skilled as athletic trainers and physical therapists in lots of different ways for promoting healthy habits, such as stretching exercises for desk workers or administrative professionals, helping them learn how to schedule regular breaks and even consider organizing a walking meetings are some of the strategies that we integrate into our wellness programming. We also try to really empower as much as we possibly can for them to be part of the culture of wellness that is within the fire department. There is almost all fire departments has some sort of wellness initiative, whether that's on-duty fitness time, whether they have strength and conditioning equipment, a nutritionist that may potentially visit their site, or an athletic trainer like myself. And so being part of that culture as much as they can. One of our favorite ways to try to engage this particular group is to have different types of active challenges, like walking challenges or different types of, healthy habits challenges, whether it's, hey, this month we're going to try to eat 5 fruits, in the week, or 5 vegetables in the week. And so again, really just trying to challenge them, I guess, essentially in different ways to take part and again, be active as part of their culture.
Absolutely. And a lot of that is all about habits, right? Once you start,
Oh, so
you
much.
can control good and bad habits. Bad habits being not eating vegetables or not eating at the right time, or the good habits being, hey, I'm going to start doing this on a regular basis. I love the walking meetings. That's fantastic, especially
Yes.
getting outside, getting some sunshine, getting some sunlight, that kind of brightens up your day, especially if you have a long, dragged out day. Obviously, you can't do it in the rain, but it's a good idea to have those walking meetings so that you can, and I do that on a regular basis, kind of get energized
Me
and
too. You
right.
got to get it in. How do you get it in, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it does open up your mind, right? To so that you can get new ideas and really get those blood flowing, the blood juices flowing in your brain. Yeah, absolutely.
It
So,
sure does. So, well, I have a couple of agencies that I work with, and very early, and you'll hear me in my talk that I'll be giving to your group in La Crosse. Is one of the groups I work with is the city of Stevens Point. And early in my days, the administrative assistant was very hesitant to use the services that we provided from athletic training and strength conditioning perspectives. And then finally, one day, I just went down to her office and I said, "Hey, we're doing this fitness assessment. Do you want to be part of it?" And it was one of those moments where they said, "Can I?" And in my head, I'm like, "Absolutely, you can be part of this." And so she kind of was nervous at the time. And it's not the current one there, it's the previous one, but her name is Lorena. And Lorena's like, maybe. And so we just went to Chief and said, "Hey, we're doing these fitness assessments, is it okay if she participates, in this program? And there was no hesitancy at all in Chief's tone to say, yes, absolutely, you can be part of it. I think sometimes you may feel like you can't because you're not a firefighter. And I think that's, for lack of a better term, not true. Certainly you should ask it and try to be part of these things if you can, because you benefit from it too. We need you to be healthy so you can take care of the department and take care of all the administrative stuff that the chief and the A chiefs and that they don't have time to necessarily do, and they really count on you to do that. So being health and well is very important. And again, don't take that for granted.
Absolutely. And that's what the Sixth Bugle is all about, to let everybody
Mm-hmm.
know that you are a valuable, integral part of the organization. And we want to let people know that. More importantly, we want to let the attendees know that we do appreciate you. And a lot of times we as fire chiefs, don't get around to saying that. We don't get around to saying thank you. Don't get around to saying we appreciate you. That's our fault. But we want to take the time to say, yes, you are an integral part of the organization. Yes, we do appreciate you. And yes, you are part of the team, a valuable part of the team. So that's why I'm glad we were able to connect, because I know you're going to bring it. So
Absolutely.
given that administrative assistants frequently interact with all levels of the organization, how do you empower them to become wellness champions and contribute to a workplace culture of health?
Wow, that's a great question because I think, in my experiences, and I'm going to use a story and start off with a story on this one. One of the agencies that I work with, their administrative assistant really is the mom of the organization. She's there to take care of all the people from the bottom up, whatever that may particularly be, including leading and organizing health initiatives sometimes for their group. One of the things I've appreciated is her ability to kind of tap into existing resources and use those to her benefit and her team's benefit and also the department's benefit. And so one of the ways we try to really empower that is to create toolkits, work with an agency to say, okay, what do you have available? What is in your community that you have? And then sit down with the chief or the administrative assistant to try to lay out some type of organized plan that they can easily coordinate from the position that they're in or delegate those tasks out to other individuals. A lot of the times when you're dealing with wellness or fitness or even just healthy habits types of programming, the hardest part is finding someone to be the champion, knowing what to do, and then keeping the accountability of these programs moving forward. And so those are some of the things that I'll be discussing in our conversation in La Crosse is how do we get there and how can you play an intricate role of being part of that, and how can outside resources support you in those endeavors. One of the things that I've really appreciated, another thing I guess that I've really appreciated over the years is I've worked with small agencies for my entire 14-year career as an athletic trainer with fire and police, don't hurt me, departments. But one of the things that I've realized is budgets are extremely limited. And I've realized there's a lot of resources already within the department that are completely untapped. And so one of the things, like I said, we do is we'll sit down with you and say, okay, let's lay out a plan. Let's, go over what works and then try to customize some type of program for you. I know customize sometimes means expensive. We don't consider ourselves expensive. You can be the judge of that. But it's trying to figure that out so that way you can be empowered to really move forward with some type of programming over the course of the year.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I will tell you that most fire department, and I work with fire departments all over the country, they understand that, and they realize that it is a very important component of the firefighters' lives, and especially mental health. And I understand
Well,
you work a lot with mental health as well.
I do. So I'm not a licensed professional counselor, but I've had my fair share of training over the years, everything from mental health first aid, which now I'm an instructor for. I've gone through peer support, many different types of peer supports because of many different agencies I've worked with, crisis intervention. This last year, I came back from Boulder Crosse Struggle Well program. As a veteran as well, I just recognize that trauma exists truly in all of us. We all have trauma that's weighing on our shoulders and our chests every day. And so trying to utilize exercise, and I really do key on the exercise because I think that's an important component of helping us work through our trauma. The other thing I think is beneficial from, again, an athletic trainer's perspective when it comes to trauma is, again, trying to find your resources and then having a plan for them. What are you going to do when one of your firefighters decides that they're going to take their own life or they're going to hurt others? The last thing you want to do is say, oh, hold on a second, I'll be right back. Like, no, we should have these plans already figured out. And over the last 2-3 years, especially since the pandemic, we have seen a drastic increase in mental health within our agencies. We've also seen it at home. I was actually listening to a chief tell me about a conference he attended to where they were talking about anxiety rates in kids have skyrocketed since 2010. And I mean a straight incline because of all of the social media, the FOMOs, those sort of things. And so we have to be aware as healthcare providers, we have to be aware as administrative professionals, because I think, again, most of those folks become the moms or the dads of the organization where people will vent to them. They'll be open with them. They'll be authentic. They'll even be vulnerable with you as an administrative professional. So you need to have tools in your toolkit, or at the very least, a mental health first aid plan. That makes it easy. That takes it to the next step without you have to second guess. And so that's not on the huge topic of what we'll talk about in lacrosse, but I did want to put that out there that if you don't have a plan in place for your organization, start working on one. There are some very easy, simple templates to help take your group to the next level, so you're prepared in case those calls come through.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we want from you. We want you to be able to give us some information so that we can come back to you and say, hey, what about this? And here's some more information that you can provide for them. Obviously, the short period of time we have here in this podcast and also at the conference is very, very limited, but you have tons of resources, and we want them to be able to reach out to you and say, hey, well, you know what, we're kind of concerned about this. Maybe we can provide some information for them and make that connection, because ultimately we got to get this word out that we need to protect our firefighters and their families, and the also the lives of the administrative assistants, which is very, very important. Which brings me to my next question, and it's interesting. Uh, Before I get there, though, I'm curious, and you don't have to get into any detail on this. Do you have information on sleep or sleep deprivation?
Oh my. I have so much information on sleep. I to go through my journey a little bit. So I started off. I was athletic trainer for secondary school. I'm a veteran as well. I did a tour of duty, and then when I came back and I started working with firefighters first, and now I work with fire and police. I started to see the trauma, and I started to bridge some of the athletic training and strength and conditioning principles that I've been trained in. And every single direction I looked kept pointing back to sleep. And so it's funny. I was talking on another podcast to somebody else recently about how we as professionals sometimes need to say no if one of the questions someone answers is that they're not sleeping. And they say, hey, I want a strength conditioning program. And I say, hey, how's your sleep? And you're like, oh, I sleep like 2-3 hours a night. Whoa, we're not putting strength conditioning on that, right? And there's a whole lot of trauma and a whole lot of reasons to that. I think in the experiences that I've had with the administrative professionals in my department, sleep is absolutely a priority. And then honestly, it takes priority over fitness, to me at least. If you're not sleeping, you're not recovering, you're rejuvenating yourself, you're not getting the rest and digest cycle. I mean, there's a whole lot of compounding issues, especially when it comes to trauma, that just don't happen if you're not sleeping. We need to start prioritizing sleep over all other things. And then if everyone starts sleeping good, then I'll start putting programming in, then we'll dive into nutrition, then we'll dive into all those things. It truly is a spectrum of wellness, which took me a long time to fully admit all dimensions of wellness are 100% necessary to be complete. However, you're never going to reach 100%. It's
Right.
always going to be emotional wellness is low and physical fitness is high, or sleep wellness is low and nutritional fitness is high. I mean, there's always going to be this offset balance of it. And so, how can we identify where those weaknesses are, or those areas of opportunity are for you, and then work those strategies slowly, and bring those to a better area, right? Where it's a more stagnant area, or at least have tools in your toolkit so you can respond when one of those areas starts to go low or spiral out of control, which can sometimes happen too.
Right. And that is huge. I know there's a lot of studies out there right now. It's a huge concern for fire chiefs, fire departments, cities. They're modifying their shift schedules, and obviously,
Yes.
as I do, it's difficult to get any kind of good sleep when you're up for 24 hours and that sort of thing. So that's a completely different challenge. So
It
along
is
the
a, it is really an ongoing battle, I think, with departments trying to figure out that healthy mix of work and sleep at the same time. I'm still personally trying to figure out which is the best schedule. I've read several pieces of literature and research in regards to California 4896, the 2472 is becoming more popular. And so it'll be interesting to see over time. One of the departments I'm working with currently is going to go from a California to a 4896. And that'll be my first experience in 14 years of seeing a shift schedule change and what type of impact that has on the department. This department, we also regularly take fitness and different types of health metrics on them. So we will have that backline data that we'll be able to compare it to as they move forward to see, do we see dips in nutrition and sleep and relationships and, mental health and, strength and conditioning and all those different aspects. So it'll be quite interesting.
Yes, most definitely. And I'm definitely going to keep in touch with you because that's a huge issue. And everywhere I go to, I talk to different fire departments throughout the country, and they're dealing with the same issue. So along those lines, can you discuss any specific stress management or work-life balance components for your advanced program that would benefit our attendees?
So if you would have asked me this question last year, I would have answered it completely different from how I'm going to answer it today. And how it's different is I mentioned earlier, I went to a program in December, and I'm not here to promote the program. I don't get any kickback or anything from them, but going to that program really changed my perspective on work-life balance. And several podcasts I listen to always preach work-life balance doesn't exist. And I respectfully disagree. I think if we can prioritize what is important to us, you will find work-life balance. One of the hardest things to do in my role as director of of advanced tactical medicine is really saying, here are my boundaries, and these are why my boundaries exist. So to gain that work-life balance, you have to have boundaries. And you have to have your boundaries built upon the beliefs and things that are most important to you. So for instance, for me, one of my boundaries is I prioritize my life with my faith, my family, and then my work. And if you ask me, you know, if I had to give up one or the other, I'd give up my work before I would give up my family and my faith. And that would be a really hard giving up, because I tell my husband all the time, I would probably do this job for free. Thankfully, I work for an employer that pays me, but I just love helping people. And I have extreme love for firefighters and law enforcement. I think from my experience as a veteran that these groups are misunderstood. They're not treated as well as they need to be. There's so much other influences on them. So coming back to it, not to get too down a wormhole, because that's something I tend to do, but I set these boundaries. And in my work, I've told my entire team, which I manage a team of 35 people. We have 30 clinics, we have 60 some on sites that we're part of and agencies that we're serving. And I tell my people, hey, at 4 o'clock, my kids get off the bus and I need to be home at 4 p.m. to get them off the bus, and I need to be mom. So if you need me, please call me. Don't text me, don't email me, don't Teams me. If you need a response today, please call me. And if I don't answer and you call twice in a row, I will answer that phone call every single time, because I'll know whatever it is that you need from me is urgent, and you need it in order to move forward with whatever particular task it is. Now, a year ago, my idea of work-life balance was, hey, these are my things, these are my boundaries. And it was all over the place. I'd be taking phone calls at 10 o'clock at night. I'd have firefighters call me at 2 a.m, the second an incident happened. And I still will take those calls if it is absolutely necessary that they need my time. My family life has gone through a huge increase by setting just that little boundary of, at 4 o'clock, I become a mom and a wife. you know? And so I think administrative professionals, again, in my experience of working with this group, you're extremely busy and you have a lot of heart. You love your firefighters. You love working for your chiefs. You love serving your community, which is why you're there. However, if you are not healthy yourself, you will not be able to help anybody. Burnout is real. Mental health is real. The trauma that you get as part of that job is real. And you need to take care of yourselves and ensure that you're giving yourself, work-life balance and setting boundaries. I have a thousand other techniques that could potentially be helpful as well, but I don't want to give away too much because that's part of my talk. But I would start with boundaries. What's important? And then once you know what those 3 things are or 4 things are, then set your boundaries as far as when you're going to do each one and not do each one.
Right.
Hopefully that helps.
No, yes, absolutely. And that's what we're all about here at the Six Bugle. We want to make sure that, and I was surprised to hear there is no such thing as work-life balance when I first heard it. And I still like to use that phrase, but now what I'm hearing is that it's not a balance, it's more of a harmony, that you have
Yeah, I
harmony
like that.
in your lifestyle so that you can gain that so-called balance, right? So yeah, I'm starting to use that word now too. So
Harmony. It has a nice ring to it when you say
harmony.
it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I like that.
Well, I am looking forward to your talk. I am really excited. I am certainly glad you're part of this team, and you're going to bring a wealth of information to our members. And I hope it's a long-term relationship that we have with you because certainly much needed, not just for our administrative assistants, but for the firefighters as a whole, as a group. And I do appreciate your work. And if anybody has failed to tell you this, I just want to say thank you for what you do and for
Thank
being
you.
you and for having the faith and the family and the work that you do and in completing it with a true balance of each so that you can bring yourself to 100% to each one of those components. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
You bet. So looking forward to the conference. It's a month away. If you haven't gotten registered yet, there's still time to get registered. I believe there's still rooms available. So if you have any issues with that, just feel free to reach out to me through info@the sixthbugle.org, and you can register on www.thesixthbugle.org and you can register through there. We still have some space, and we're looking for a fantastic event. Traci, thanks again for joining us here at the Six Bugle Podcast. We're looking forward to your talk, and we hope to see you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you again for having me. We'll see you in La Crosse.
All right, sounds good. Take care, everyone.